Good morning, folks. Welcome back. Chris in Central Pennsylvania. It's time to dissect a Substack post by Redi Tlhabi, the South African journalist, or as I prefer to call her, the yellow journalist, the propagandist who spreads disinformation all the time, to dissect some comments she had in this op-ed Substack piece about Elon Musk and Starlink. Now, this is selective. I've only picked some of the comments out here, but let's address this and talk about the reality of the situation. The title is Don't Hand South Africa's Democracy to Elon Musk for 30 Pieces of Silver. Now, this is coming from a journalist who lives in America and has access to Starlink. She says South Africa must never become so dazzled by wealth and celebrity that it forgets its duty to protect our democracy from those who believe themselves too powerful to be held accountable. Dazzled? What are the ANC politicians? Children? We are told this is about rural children accessing the internet, about innovation, about economic growth, about the future. No, Redi, it's not about that at all. Starlink is offered to satisfy the ANC's racist laws with an option left open to many international companies, but denied to Musk because of the greedy thieves of the ANC who want a chunk of the next trillion-dollar corporation. Newsflash, no soup for you, Latula House.
Very good. Very good. You know something? No soup for you! Come back 1 year! Next!
She continues, but the real question confronting South Africa is far more serious. Should a constitutional democracy hand a critical layer of its communications infrastructure to a billionaire who has repeatedly demonstrated contempt for democratic regulation, institutional accountability, and the sovereign right of states to govern themselves? Hand over what exactly? Starlink is not acquiring any South African telecom assets. Instead, it is offering to deliver something South Africans themselves cannot deliver. Her comment here is not only false, but it's completely disingenuous. They're not taking over telecom or MTN or even linking to them. This is completely separate. All South Africa has to do is grant the license and South Africans can turn on Starlink without any interaction from the South African economy. She continues, instead of engaging honestly with South Africa's regulatory framework, Musk has chosen provocation. He has implied that Starlink is barred because he's not black. And she misspells black with a capital letter. It's an adjective, not a noun. He's amplified the grotesque mythology of white genocide. He has portrayed post-apartheid transformation laws not as imperfect attempts at historical repair, but as racial persecution. Well, first off, the laws are far from imperfect. They are immoral and racist, as well as self-defeating, and a major reason why the economy in South Africa is in the tank, growing at less than 0.5% a year. Starlink has never applied for a license from ICASA. They've simply talked to them about it. They've never applied. And the application of white genocide is her domain, and she is again spreading it on thick. You see, it's the leftists of the media, the so-called journalists and the commentators and the politicians in South Africa who use the term white genocide. She continues, perhaps most revealingly, he increasingly traffics in the reactionary cultural politics that have become common currency in parts of the global far right. Sorry. The global far right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she's doing exactly what she's accusing him of, but let's just continue with this. Giving it free rein to hate speech on his Twitter platform while claiming he is simply upholding free speech. So censorship is her preferred solution? Does she mean like the National Party's banning? Would she like that? Should we ban people so they can't speak? Or maybe she likes the Biden regime's collusion. She was here. The Biden regime's collusion, coercion, and cajoling of tech platforms to violate our First Amendment rights to free speech. You see, we call people like that fascist. Is Redi Tlhabi revealing that she's a fascist? So people who disagree with her, are they dangerous because they disagree with her? And X users, not Elon Musk, are responsible for their conduct. Yes, X is responsible for blocking criminal activity, but not free speech. So anybody who disagrees with her is a threat. Sounds like a fascist to me. Now, this is the richest part of it all. Recently, Musk mocked the idea that Lupita Nyong'o, Oscar-winning actress widely regarded as one of the most striking performers of her generation, could portray Helen of Troy, sneering at the notion as though blackness itself were incompatible with beauty, myth, or classical civilization. The comment was not merely juvenile. It revealed the racial, cultural anxieties that animate Musk politics, a fixation on demographic grievance disguised as anti-wokeness. This is rich. Notice how she slides right into race baiting, race hustling, and grifting while calling the other guy racist. You see that? She's calling him a racist with her comments, and she's the one race hustling here. Folks, picture this for just a moment. I audition for the part and I win the part of Malcolm X in a film about his life. Or film producers select me over black South Africans to play the role of Shaka Zulu. Cultural appropriation, racism, colonialism. You know exactly what garbage would follow me winning those roles. Helen of Troy was white, not black or even African. But Redi thinks it's appropriate for a black actress to culture appropriate that role. And yet South Africans are told that raising such concerns means being anti-business, anti-technology, or hostile to investment. This is a false choice. Nope. This is not the story. Thieving is the story. Undeserved equity stakes surrendered not for merit, contribution, or value added, but simply by having dark pigmentation. Racism, pure and simple. She says South Africa already accommodates multinational corporations through equity equivalent programs designed precisely for companies that cannot or do not wish to comply with traditional ownership structures. There's no traditional ownership structure. This is racist. That's not tradition. Many global firms operate within these frameworks, so the suggestion that Musk is uniquely excluded because he's white is not merely misleading, it is inflammatory. And her comments here are bizarre. You see, Starlink has offered equity equivalent programs, and they were told no. That's why they haven't applied. So what exactly is her point here? She's saying that international companies get equity equivalent programs. And him complaining about not being able to come to the market means that he is being inflammatory? He asked for equity equivalent programs. They said no. Is she not keeping up with current events? And she continues. But that too may be part of the strategy because the attack is not ultimately about Starlink. It's about delegitimize the post-apartheid constitutional project itself. How do you take people like this seriously? Balderdash. Kvutch. I love how leftists promote the dirge that the Constitution authorizes them to be racist. It does not. The rhetoric around white genocide, anti-transformation grievance, and racial victimhood seeks to portray South Africa's democratic settlement as inherently illegitimate because it attempts, however imperfectly, to address the enduring economic architecture of apartheid. Well, first off, Redi, South Africa did not achieve a democratic settlement, but rather a capitulation of the ruling National Party because the Cold War was over. The settlement was in fact illegitimate as it offered a democratic solution while misleading and hoodwinking South Africa's public. It's not even remotely democratic. A country where voters cannot even vote for who represents them at any level is hardly a paragon of democracy. Because it attempts, however, imperfectly to address the enduring economic architecture of apartheid. Seriously? There's no enduring model of economic apartheid. What we see today is a racist kleptocracy that pilfers from productive and punishes them for immutable factors. It's no less repulsive than what the National Party did. The fact that the majority does it to a small minority is even more disgusting. The mining sector, for example, has been transformed. The rest of the economy is being looted. What South Africa has today is the result not of apartheid, not of colonialism, not of Jan van Riebeck, but rather the failed macroeconomic policy of the African National Congress. Redi Tlhabi, here safe in her U.S. residence, deigns to lecture us on Starlink in South Africa. She can use it here, but you cannot use it there. And she calls it a threat to South Africa's national security. How so? Because people will be able to freely comment and exercise? Because rural South Africans have access to broadband internet that's reliable and functional, something they don't have now? I think she's right. I think that, in fact, it is a national security threat, but not to South Africa, but rather to the African National Congress. The ANC benefits from the 30% crowd by dumbing down education standards and keeping much of the population functionally illiterate. If people thought for themselves and thought critically, the ANC wouldn't get 30% of the vote. They're more likely to get 3%. What say you, South Africa? Mzansi. Cheers.